Welcome to r/PettyRevenge, where we share stories of small victories over those who have wronged you. Thank you guys for subscribing, likes, and supporting in the comments. The first story, the sly admin took my vacation, and then I took more from her. The second story, a coworker flirted with the CFO and got fired. The third story, woman will pay a lot of money for a car accident. On to the first story. Make me miss out on a free holiday? I'll make you miss out on yours too. Includes bonus payoff. So I wanted a simple job in admin, nothing that challenged me. I was not in the mood to push myself, and I didn't want a job with progression. I didn't want to see nor climb any type of corporate ladder. I just wanted a job that paid me sweet, sweet money. I interviewed for a role that had amazing pay, a nice office, and decent working times. The woman interviewing me was the senior full-time admin person. Let's call her Morticia. "Oh, don't worry, cat socks," she had said. "This is an admin post, but you won't end up doing all the jobs I don't want to do. You'll have your own responsibilities, and we'll divide up tasks here and there." After the chat, I met a few members of the team, including my soon-to-be boss, and shared fake laughs about financial corporate things. I then had to endure 3 months of background checks, DBS checks, NDAs, the whole shebang. The person in charge of this was the most incompetent person ever. "So, cat socks," he said, breathing heavily down the phone, while eyeing up the now flat can of Coke on the Dorito-encrusted desk he called his workspace. "Probably. You have a month gap here from August 2004 to September 2004. Why is this?" "But cat socks, what do you mean by I was married at this time? And do you have any proof of your marriage and the reason why you didn't work? I'm sure you did burn your old marriage certificate after your divorce, and I'm sure it's difficult me asking you to get back in touch with your abusive ex-husband, but I have a job to do, cat socks, and we can't offer you the role until your full employment history has been checked." I literally had to call my old, now demolished school to find out my GCSE results from 2001. I'm genuinely shocked I didn't have a cavity search. What I'm trying to say is this very bland corporate company had a recruitment process that was more invasive than MI5, and I genuinely interviewed for a job at MI5. After what seemed like eons of time, I had to start date and go to work. On the first day, Morticia showed me around the office and ran through my tasks, such as emptying the dishwasher, moving crates of drinks from the ground floor reception to the office, cleaning the office, and changing printer toner. Basically, all the stuff Morticia didn't want to do, until such a time as I was trained enough to book flights and check employee expenses. I had to have my lunch break at 3 p.m. for strictly half an hour, after everyone else was back from lunch, in case we had a random visitor who needed collecting from reception. We never did. I didn't care. I was getting paid, it was easy, chimpy work, and I always left on time the days I worked. A few months into the job, Morticia tells me she's having IVF, and because of this, we'll need to take extended lunch breaks and leave work 2 hours early the days I was working. This left me to do all her work as well as mine. When I asked her to please make sure she finished her tasks before she left, she said I was threatening her and that I could be held responsible if her IVF failed or she had a miscarriage. Clearly, I understood she was insane, so I left her to it. A year later and everything's going well. I'm getting paid, and Morticia is taking days off for her IVF as and when. She has now progressed to not getting up from her desk for fear of damaging her non-pregnant uterus, banning all nuts in the office, as apparently they cause an inflammatory response, and ordering an obscene amount of decaf coffee on company money that only she was able to drink, as caffeine is apparently bad for non-existent children. I then get an opportunity to go to Thailand for 10 days for free on an all-expenses-paid trip. I was desperate to go, so put a holiday request in ASAP, as the trip was scheduled to leave in a month's time. The request was refused by Morticia with no explanation. I scheduled a meeting with her and my boss to say that I had accrued enough holiday time, and there was nothing in the diary that prevented me from going. She stated I couldn't go, as she might need to see her IVF doctor and might need to take a week off to de-stress and have her therapies. Might. She said it's in my contract and that leave can be canceled if the company requires cover or when experiencing heavy workload, and her sick leave would take priority over my holiday. My boss agreed, and that was that. I had to let the trip pass by, and what's worse is she didn't even take any time off over the weeks I'd requested. Not one extended lunch break, not one day off for conception yoga. For that 1 week only, she worked her contractual hours from morning to night. The following week, Morticia emails me to say she's taking extended leave over a period of 6 weeks, as IVF isn't working and she needed some relaxation time. How did she have enough holiday time accrued? Well, she's not taken an official day off in the year I was there, thanks to her sick time. I was absolutely fine with this, as she was a nightmare to work with. I ask who will cover her tasks. No one is the answer. She was going to hand over all her tasks for me to complete. I asked if I'll be getting compensated for this. No is the answer. I went out for lunch and ended up having a full-blown panic attack. I'm talking streaming mascara, snot bubbles, the full works, in the middle of a busy London street. I decided that this was affecting my mental health. The next day, I booked an appointment with my doctor. She suggested signing me off from work for 2 weeks, with the option to review again if I didn't feel I could go back. Still in the doctor's office, I called my actual boss and stated I'd been signed off from work. I gave no reason why and said I'd email through the GP's note. Morticia's plans now had to be canceled, as my actual sick leave took priority over her holiday. 2 weeks later, I genuinely felt like going back was a fate worse than death, so had my sick leave extended for another month. Again, this meant Morticia's plans had to wait, and for once she had to leave her desk to actually, work. After the end of my 6-week sick leave, I handed in my month's notice, stating that I wouldn't be returning to the office. This meant they had to either pay me sick leave for the entire month, then start the 3-month recruitment process, essentially waiting 4 months for someone else, or pay me off and start the process that day. They chose the latter, and I cut ties with the company. The last I heard, she still wasn't pregnant, and is now running a consultancy company from her own home. Hopefully, she gives herself enough time off. The second story is, hippity-hoppity, you're losing your jobbity. This took place during my last summer in college. I worked at a bargain retail store with a used bookstore/cafe inside of it. Employees in the bookstore worked in 3 rotations: production, sorting through used incoming inventory; distribution, shelving used inventory; or cafe, baking, making smoothies and coffee drinks, and running the register. It was almost my second year of working there, and my manager, MM, promoted me to a full-time position. It was my first full-time position, and my family was very proud of me. The bookstore was doing well, so the promotion also included a $3.50 an hour raise. However, my coworker Tank was not happy for me. He had been at the same job for 3 years, almost 4. He was very good at production and distribution, but he was consistently late to work. He had finished a culinary arts program, but he bossed me and other coworkers. We had a staff of 8, not including management, like he was management. He was not. On top of everything, Tank let me know daily how I did not deserve the promotion. You don't work fast enough. Move out of my way and let me do it. That's not how you talk to a customer. You gotta be firm, gotta seduce them. You work like a woman. BBC, my initials. Let a man do this. MM didn't like how Tank talked to me or anyone else, so she assigned him to only do production. Tank didn't like that, so he reported MM for job discrimination and sexual harassment. MM at this time was happily married with 3 children, and Tank was a single man 16 years older than her. Basically, Tank reported MM to Human Resources for anything that sounded like a potential lawsuit. MM was forced to assign Tank 32 hours per week on all 3 schedules. MM assigned me to watch him bake and distribute books. I noticed a pattern with Tank. He always creeped on women in the store. If a female customer wasn't attractive to him, he would barely talk to her. But if he thought one was pretty, he complimented her and tried to touch her. If she flirted back, he would ring up discounts that she didn't earn, would make a line of customers wait just to talk to one woman, etc. Tank was 46, 47 years old, but he would flirt with 18-year-olds the same way as 42-year-olds. This is important for how the revenge takes place. We had customer surveys every month, and Tank was getting mostly negative ones. Female customers complained in the surveys about being flirted with, and some male customers hated being in long lines. MM couldn't use that against him, so she scheduled him and I to open on the day our corporate office came to visit. Corporate visited once every quarter, just to look around, shop, see the store's progress, then leave. There was a female CFO who was exactly Tank's physical type in the group. MM had met her previously, but Tank hadn't, because he worked in production at the time. When the corporate office arrived, MM put on her nicest smile and made sure to single out the female CFO. Tank watched the group walk around the store, just creeping on the CFO the whole time. The group split up, and MM encouraged CFO to stay in the store and browse. MM went into her office. CFO came to the register and asked for hot white chocolate mocha. I had to stand by and make any drinks or sandwiches that were ordered. Tank, I got your hot white mocha right here, baby girl. CFO's eyes grew wide and her face flushed. I'm sorry, what? Tank repeated louder. I got a white chocolate drink for you with all the whipped cream you need. CFO backed away. No thanks. She went to the manager's office at the back of the store, looking back at Tank with disgust. By the end of the day, MM had me fill out a witness report to describe what I had seen and heard. Tank was written up. Somehow, CFO found out about all the negative surveys Tank had received. Survey comments to which only managers had access, so they could improve the store. Within a week, Tank was fired. I stayed friends with Tank on social media even after I left the bookstore. He left his last 2 jobs, fired from one for being late, and quit another because his boss's daughter threatened to call the cops on him about something. Meanwhile, MM and her family have moved to another state and another job. And the last story is, Unintentional revenge, a car accident I profited from. I was hit backing out of a parking spot in a parking lot by a woman in an SUV. She had driven past me and pulled into a parking spot behind me, so I started backing out. She slammed her car in reverse and backed into me. A spot a little closer was open, and she missed it at first. It left a basketball-sized dent over my rear driver's side tire. She was on her phone the entire time. She nonchalantly pulled into the closer spot and got out of her car. She started to walk past me like nothing happened. I got out of my car and asked her if she didn't see me or what. She says I hit her and proceeded to walk into the store to shop. I got her license plate number and vehicle description and left. I had never been in an accident before, so I didn't realize I should have called the police. I thought since it happened on private property, I didn't need to. I reported it to my insurance company, and they sent an adjuster out, etc. She told her insurance company I drove off from the scene and wouldn't talk to her or exchange information. She couldn't describe me or my car. Her car had no damage. Long story short, they determined I was telling the truth and sent me a check minus my deductible. I got my car fixed and figured that was the end of it. I got a call from my insurance company wanting to go over my side of the story again because they had some discrepancies with her story. They were trying to get their money back from her insurance company because the claims adjuster said after inspecting both cars, the accident was absolutely her fault. She told them the back of my car hit the passenger side of her car, but she had no damage whatsoever. I found out later they weren't sure who she was because the vehicle was in a man's name and she wasn't listed as a driver, so they needed a detailed description. Luckily, I had it written all down before I left the scene. They needed to record me for litigation purposes. About 3 months later, I got a call from the same lady at my insurance company, informing me I was getting my entire deductible back. Her insurance company decided after 15 minutes to reimburse my insurance company the total amount because this lady's car and insurance were in her son's name. She was the original client with the company and added her son on the account, then was dropped by the company along the way, making her son their sole client. Her license was revoked 2 years prior because of the amount of tickets, mostly from accidents she had accrued over the years. I've only had one ticket in my entire driving history, and no accidents. My ticket was 16 years prior to this incident. I received the check for my deductible a few weeks later. They told me that was the quickest resolution to an accident they'd ever seen. The son was charged the full amount of the accident, plus litigation, for allowing his mother to drive a car in his name with his insurance. His insurance company dropped him. The lady told me he may be charged with something to the effect of allowing her to drive a car in his name, knowing she had a revoked license. I don't know how true this part is, but that's what I was told. Either way, his insurance premiums were going to skyrocket because of this accident. I actually ended up making $130 off of this, because the shop I had my car repaired at charged me less than the claims adjuster figured the repairs would be. I guess the moral to this is, if your mother can't stay off her cell phone while she's driving, don't assume responsibility with her vehicle and insurance. Thank you for listening.